Tonight, you're going to realize something unsettling. Everything you've ever thought of as big is actually small. Not just small in a poetic sense, but so small that it almost disappears. Look around you right now. The room you're in feels real, measurable, understandable. You know how far the walls are. You could walk across it without thinking. Your world feels contained, familiar, complete. But what if I told you this sense of scale is an illusion your mind created just to survive? Because the moment we step outside that room, everything begins to stretch in ways your brain was never designed to handle. Your home becomes a dot in a neighborhood. Your neighborhood fades into a city. Your city dissolves into a planet. And even Earth, the entire world you've ever known, is about to shrink into something almost invisible. Here on Valoran, Sleepy Space Mysteries, we explore ideas like this slowly, gently. Sometimes like in our video about how time itself bends across the universe, where nothing is as stable as it feels. And tonight, we're going even further. We're going to move outward, step by step, from where you are right now all the way to the edge of the observable universe. And somewhere along the way, something changes. Not in space, but in how you see yourself inside it. So before we begin this journey, take a moment to settle in. And if you enjoy these quiet cosmic explorations, consider subscribing, liking the video, turning on the bell, or even joining as a member to support the channel. And as always, tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. Now, let's begin. Now, let's take the first real step outward. Not in a sudden jump, but slowly, the way your mind can follow. Imagine lifting yourself gently above your home, rising just high enough to see your entire street. The details begin to blur. The places that once felt important shrink into patterns. Roads become thin lines. Buildings flatten into shapes. And as you continue rising, your entire city quietly dissolves into the landscape. There's something strange about this transition. Nothing physically changes, and yet everything feels different. Importance fades with distance. What once felt central becomes just another point. Keep going. Now you're high above the atmosphere. The sky has turned black. Not the soft blue you're used to, but a deep, endless black. Beneath you, Earth appears for the first time as a whole. A sphere of oceans, clouds, and land, suspended in silence. And already, something feels off, because Earth, as vast as it once seemed, now fits entirely within your view. All the continents, all the cities, every person who has ever lived, all contained on this small floating sphere. History itself reduced to a surface detail. This is the first crack in our illusion of scale. But we haven't even left our immediate neighborhood yet. Now let's move to the nearest object in space that feels familiar. The moon. From Earth, it feels close. You've seen it countless times, hanging in the sky, detailed enough to recognize patterns on its surface. It almost feels reachable, like something just beyond your grasp. But as we drift outward, the distance begins to reveal itself. The moon is not just up there. It's about 384,000 kilometers away. And that number doesn't really mean anything to your brain yet. So instead, imagine traveling to it. If you could drive a car straight into space at highway speed without stopping, it would take you months to arrive. Months of continuous motion just to reach something that looks close enough to touch. And here's where the feeling changes again. As you move farther out, you notice something unexpected. The space between Earth and the Moon is mostly empty, not filled with debris, not crowded with objects, just nothing. In fact, that empty gap is so large that every planet in our solar system could fit inside it, lined up side by side with room to spare. Pause on that for a moment. Everything you've ever learned about the planets, all of them, could sit between Earth and the Moon and still not fill the space completely. This is where the second realization begins to form. Space is not just big. It is mostly empty. Now continue drifting outward, past the Moon, watching it shrink behind you. Earth becomes smaller too, now just a glowing sphere, then a bright marble, then a distant point of light. And ahead of you, something else begins to grow. A brightness, presence, the sun. At first, it doesn't seem much larger than it did from Earth. But as you approach, the scale begins to shift again in a way that feels almost unsettling. Because the sun is not just another object. It is everything. It contains nearly all the mass in the solar system. Not most of it, almost all of it. The planets, moons, asteroids, everything combined, are just a tiny fraction compared to this one star. As you move closer, its size becomes harder to ignore. You could fit over 1 million Earths inside it. 1 million worlds, swallowed into a single sphere of burning light. And yet, even at this scale, the distances remain enormous. From Earth to the Sun is about 150 million kilometers. Light itself, the fastest thing in existence, takes over 8 minutes to make that journey. Which means when you look at the sun, you're not seeing it as it is now, but as it was more than 8 minutes ago. You are always slightly in the past. This idea quietly loops back to something we hinted at earlier. Distance is also time. The farther you go, the further back you see. Now drift outward again, beyond the orbit of Earth. The sun begins to shrink, slowly at first, then more noticeably. The warmth fades, the light softens, and something else becomes clear. The planets are not arranged neatly or closely, like diagrams might suggest. They are scattered across vast distances, separated by enormous stretches of nothing. Mars is not just next door. It's tens of millions of kilometers away. Jupiter, hundreds of millions. Each planet isolated, drifting in its own silent path. Even communication begins to struggle here. Signals take minutes, then longer to travel between worlds. Conversations are no longer immediate. Everything is delayed, stretched across distance. And this brings us back to the question we quietly opened at the beginning of this journey. If even our solar system, our immediate cosmic neighborhood, feels this empty, this stretched, this disconnected, then what must the space between stars feel like? We're about to find out. But before we go there, notice how your sense of scale has already changed. What once felt vast now feels small, and we've barely begun. Now, let's continue outward, but this time, slow down even more, because this is where the feeling changes from curiosity into something quieter, something almost unsettling. You are now drifting beyond the orbit of Mars, leaving behind the last traces of what once felt like a familiar inner neighborhood. The sun is still bright, but no longer overwhelming. It no longer fills your entire awareness. Instead, it has become a distant anchor, a glowing center that everything else seems to orbit from far away. And here, something becomes unmistakably clear. There is no traffic in space, no movement that feels busy, no sense of closeness between worlds, just vast, uninterrupted silence, stretching in every direction. As you pass through the region where Mars travels, you might expect to see something more. After all, Mars has always been imagined as a neighbor, a destination, a place humanity dreams of reaching. But from here, it doesn't feel like a neighbor at all. It feels isolated, a small, cold world, drifting alone in a massive dark ocean. And then, further still, you begin approaching something enormous. Jupiter. At first, it appears as just a bright point, slightly larger than the stars around it. But as you move closer, its scale reveals itself slowly, almost reluctantly, as if your mind needs time to adjust. Jupiter is not like Earth. It is a giant, a world so large that over 1,000 Earths could fit inside it. This gravity dominates everything nearby. Its presence bends the paths of comets, shapes the structure of the solar system itself. And yet, even something this massive floats in isolation. As you pass near it, you might notice its swirling clouds, its enormous storms, including one that has been raging for centuries. But what's more striking than its size is the emptiness around it. There are moons, yes, many of them, entire worlds in their own right, some with oceans hidden beneath ice, some with volcanic surfaces constantly reshaped. But even these are separated by distances so large that they feel disconnected, like distant islands rather than neighbors. And once you pass Jupiter, the silence deepens. The sun continues to shrink. Its warmth fades further. The light becomes softer, thinner, less present. Now you're entering the outer regions, where the distances between planets grow even larger, and time itself begins to stretch. Saturn appears next. From afar, it is one of the most beautiful sights in the solar system. Its rings spread out like a delicate halo, thin, wide, almost unreal. But as you approach, something surprising happens again. Even Saturn, with all its elegance, is surrounded by emptiness. The rings themselves, despite their size, are incredibly thin. And beyond them, space resumes its quiet, endless expansion. Its moons, scattered across vast distances, each following its own silent path. and communication here becomes even more delayed. A signal sent from this distance would take over an hour just to reach Earth. A simple exchange, a question and response, could take hours. Conversation becomes something slow, almost meditative. Continue drifting outward past Saturn. And now the sun has changed completely. It is no longer a dominant presence. It is just a very bright star. This is the moment where the solar system begins to lose its sense of structure. The familiar hierarchy, the feeling that everything is connected, starts to dissolve. The planets are no longer landmarks, but distant, faint objects scattered across an immense void. Uranus appears dim and distant, a cold, tilted world rolling through space. Neptune even farther, a deep blue point nearly swallowed by darkness. And between them, nothing. Not the kind of nothing we experience on Earth, where air fills the gaps, where sound carries, where presence is always nearby, but a deeper kind of nothing, a silence so complete that even light feels alone traveling through it. And this is where the third realization begins to settle in. Even an entire solar system is mostly empty space. All the planets, all the moons, all the objects combined occupy only a tiny fraction of the volume around you. The rest is distance. Vast, quiet, uninterrupted distance. Now, as you move beyond Neptune, something subtle but important happens. There are no more major planets ahead. No clear destinations. No familiar names. You are leaving the structured part of the solar system and entering a region that feels more like a boundary, or perhaps the beginning of something else. Small icy bodies drift here, remnants from the early formation of the solar system. Fragments that never became planets. They are scattered loosely across a wide region known as the Kuiper Belt. But even here, density is an illusion. The objects are so far apart that if you stood on one, you might not even see another nearby. It would feel just as empty as everything that came before. And beyond this region lies something even more distant, something that stretches the definition of solar system itself. A vast spherical cloud of objects, extending so far that its outer edge becomes almost impossible to imagine. But before we go there, pause for a moment. Look back. The sun is now just another star among many. The planets, invisible. Earth, gone completely from sight. Everything you have ever known, every story, every memory, every moment in human history has vanished into a single, indistinguishable point. And yet, we are still only at the edge of our own system. So now the question becomes even quieter, but much heavier. If this entire solar system feels this empty, what does it mean to travel between stars? We're about to step into that silence next, and it's nothing like what you expect. Now, we move beyond everything that once felt like structure. Behind you, the sun has faded into just another distant point. Ahead of you, there is no obvious destination. No glowing planet, No familiar orbit. No clear boundary that says, this is where the solar system ends. Instead, there is only distance. And within that distance, something vast begins to take shape. Not as something you can see clearly, but as something you begin to feel. This is the outermost reach of our star's influence. A region so far away that even light begins to feel like it is traveling alone for long stretches of time without encountering anything at all. Imagine drifting through this space for years, decades, centuries, and nothing around you changes. No landmarks appear, no objects grow larger. Just a slow, endless continuation of the same quiet darkness. This is where the idea of distance starts to break. Because on Earth, distance always leads somewhere. A road connects two places. A journey has an endpoint, but here, distance becomes something else entirely. It becomes isolation. Somewhere in this vast region, far beyond the planets, lies what astronomers believe is a distant cloud of icy objects, not arranged in a flat disk like the planets, but surrounding the solar system in all directions, like a faint, invisible shell. But even calling it a cloud is misleading, because each object within it is separated by enormous gaps. If you stood on one, you wouldn't see others nearby. You would feel completely alone, suspended in a darkness that stretches in every direction without interruption. This is the true outer boundary of our solar system's gravitational reach. And yet, even here, we are still not close to another star. Let that settle in. You have already traveled beyond every planet, beyond every major structure, beyond everything that defines our local system, and still, you are nowhere near the next destination. Now consider something even more unsettling. Humanity has already sent objects into this region. Small spacecraft, launched decades ago, moving faster than anything we have ever built before. They have been traveling continuously, without stopping, for nearly half a century. And yet, even after all that time, they have barely begun the journey outward. They are still closer to the sun than to any other star. This is where the fourth realization begins to emerge. The solar system is not just empty, it is surrounded by something even more empty. Now continue drifting outward, beyond the last faint influence of our star. At some point, something subtle changes. There is no visible line, no marker, no sudden shift. But gradually, you leave behind the region where the sun's gravity dominates and enter the space between stars, interstellar space. And this is where the silence becomes absolute. Not just quiet, but fundamentally empty in a way that is difficult to describe. The density of matter here is so low that entire regions contain only a few atoms, spread across volumes larger than anything you've ever experienced. If you could scoop up a cubic meter of this space, you might find only a handful of particles inside it. Not air, not dust, just almost nothing. And yet, even in this emptiness, light continues to travel. Photons leaving distant stars, crossing unimaginable distances, carrying information across years, decades, centuries. This is how we see the universe, not as it is now, but as it was when that light began its journey. And here, the connection between distance and time becomes impossible to ignore, because now distances are no longer measured in kilometers or even millions of kilometers. They are measured in how long light must travel. Years, not for a journey, but for a single beam of light. Now imagine this. If you were to look back toward where you came from, toward the sun, you wouldn't see it as it is now. You would see it as it was minutes ago. That delay grows as distance increases. And if you look ahead, toward the nearest star, you are not seeing its present either. You are seeing its past, because the nearest star to us is so far away that even light takes years to travel between us. Years of uninterrupted motion at the fastest speed possible, just to cross the gap. This is where the earlier question returns, but now it feels heavier. If our entire solar system already felt vast, what does it mean that the space between stars is so large that our fastest machines would take thousands of years to cross it? This is not just distance anymore. This is separation on a scale that changes how reality feels. Because for the first time, you begin to understand something quietly profound. Our solar system is not part of a crowded neighborhood. It is isolated, surrounded by distances so large that even light takes years to bridge them. And as we continue outward, you'll begin to see just how deep that isolation truly goes. Because the next step is not just another destination. It's a completely different way of understanding space itself. Now remain here for a moment, suspended in interstellar space, where there is no up or down, no center, no sense of direction that feels meaningful anymore. Because something subtle has changed again. Earlier, distance felt like something you could imagine crossing. Even when it was enormous, it still felt like a journey, a long one, but still a path between two places. But here, that feeling begins to fade, because the space between stars is not just large. It is overwhelmingly empty in a way that removes the idea of travel itself. If you were to move forward, there would be no sense of progress, no visual change to guide you, no growing object ahead, no approaching destination that slowly reveals itself. Instead, you would drift through years of identical darkness, where even motion becomes difficult to feel. This is where human intuition truly begins to fail. Because on Earth, movement always brings change. Walk far enough, and the landscape shifts. Drive long enough, and you arrive somewhere new. But here, you could travel for an entire lifetime, and nothing around you would appear different. And yet, there is something out there, somewhere in this vast silence. Another star exists, the nearest one, not a distant galaxy, not a far-off cluster, just the closest possible destination beyond our sun. And even that is unimaginably far. To understand this, don't think in terms of distance. Think in terms of time. Light, the fastest thing in the universe, takes over 4 years to travel from that star to where you are now. For years, moving continuously without slowing down, without stopping, just to cross the gap between two neighboring stars. Now imagine replacing light with something human-made. The fastest spacecraft we have ever launched would take thousands of years to make that same journey. Not decades, not centuries, entire stretches of time longer than recorded human history, just to reach the nearest star. This is where the scale becomes something else entirely, because now you are no longer comparing sizes. You are comparing lifetimes. Civilizations could rise, evolve, and disappear in the time it would take to travel between stars. And suddenly, the idea of neighbors no longer makes sense. Stars are not neighbors in the way cities are neighbors. They are more like distant islands, separated by oceans so vast that crossing them changes the meaning of existence itself. Now slowly, allow your perspective to expand further. Instead of focusing on one destination, imagine looking around you in all directions. At first, you might see only darkness, but then faint points begin to appear. Stars, not clustered tightly, not filling the space, but scattered, each separated by immense distances. From here, they don't form patterns or constellations. Those only exist from Earth's perspective. Out here, the sky loses its familiar shapes. It becomes something more random, more fragmented. Each star alone, each one surrounded by its own vast emptiness, just like the sun. And this leads to another quiet realization. The universe, at this scale, is not densely packed. It is mostly empty space with occasional islands of light. Now imagine shrinking everything down. If the sun were reduced to the size of a grain of sand, then the nearest star would be another grain located several kilometers away. Not centimeters, not meters, kilometers, two tiny points, separated by what feels like an endless stretch of nothing. This is the true nature of the space between stars. And now, something deeper begins to emerge. Because earlier we talked about how distance is also time. But here, that idea becomes more personal. When you look at a nearby star from this distance, you are not seeing it as it is now. You are seeing it as it was years ago. The light reaching you left that star long before this moment, which means the entire universe you observe is always slightly behind reality. You are never seeing anything as it is, only as it was. And the farther you look, the further back in time you see. This transforms space into something unexpected, a kind of memory, a record of what once existed, carried across vast distances by light. Now let that idea settle in. Every star you see is a glimpse into the past. Every point of light, a delayed message, traveling silently through darkness. And you, floating here, are surrounded by echoes of moments that have already happened. This is where the emotional weight of scale begins to deepen, because distance is no longer just physical. It becomes temporal, historical, almost philosophical. The universe is not just far away. It is old, layered, and constantly slipping out of sync with your present moment. And yet, even with all this distance, all this separation, we are still inside something larger, because these stars, as scattered as they feel, are not random. They are part of a structure, a system so vast that even this scale is only a small piece of it. So now, as we prepare to move further outward, a new question quietly takes shape. If the space between stars feels this empty, then what does it mean that there are hundreds of billions of stars connected together inside something even larger? We're about to see that next, and it will change the feeling of scale all over again. Now, let's take the next step outward, but this time something changes in how we move. Up until now, everything has felt like a journey away from something, away from Earth, away from the sun, away from familiarity. But now, as you continue drifting through interstellar space, the focus shifts. Because instead of leaving something behind, you are beginning to approach something much larger. First, it doesn't look like anything at all. Just more stars scattered across the darkness, each one distant, each one isolated. But as your perspective slowly expands, something subtle begins to emerge. Pattern. Not a clear shape, not something your eyes immediately recognize, but a faint sense that these stars are not randomly placed, that somehow they belong together. And then, as if your awareness pulls back just a little further, you begin to see it, a vast, faint glow stretching across space, not from one star, but from countless stars blended together. This is not just a collection of stars. This is a galaxy, our galaxy, the Milky Way. From Earth, it appeared as a soft band of light across the night sky, something distant, almost decorative. But from here, you begin to understand what it truly is. Not a streak, not a line, but a massive structure, a rotating system, containing hundreds of billions of stars, all bound together by gravity, all moving slowly through space in a vast cosmic dance. And suddenly, everything you experienced earlier begins to shift again, because the isolation between stars, which once felt absolute, now becomes part of something larger. Each star, though distant, is still connected to the part of this immense structure. Now imagine pulling back even further. The stars you passed earlier, the one closest to the sun, the faint points scattered around you, they begin to merge into this greater system. Individual distances fade into something collective. And this is where the fifth realization emerges. Even the vast emptiness between stars exists within something bigger. The Milky Way is enormous, so large that if you could travel at the speed of light, it would take you about 100,000 years just to cross from one side to the other. Not to explore it, not to map it, just to pass through it once. And within this galaxy, there are regions where stars are more densely packed, swirling arms of gas and dust where new stars are constantly being born. And there are quieter regions, like the one our sun occupies, where stars are more spread out, drifting gently through space. You are inside one of those quieter regions, a small branch far from the center, where things feel calm, almost uneventful compared to the crowded heart of the galaxy. And speaking of the center, if you shift your perspective and look toward the core of the Milky Way, you would see something extraordinary. A region so dense with stars that the sky would glow continuously without darkness. Billions of stars packed closer together, their combined light creating a constant radiance. And at the very center of it all, something invisible but immensely powerful. A supermassive black hole. Not something you can see directly, but something you can feel through its influence. Stars near the center orbit it at incredible speeds, pulled by a gravity so strong that it shapes the motion of everything around it. And yet, even this enormous structure, this galaxy filled with hundreds of billions of stars, is still just one. Pause on that. Everything we've explored so far, every distance, every silence, every star, exists within a single galaxy, and there are many more. Now gently allow your perspective to pull back even further. The Milky Way begins to shrink. Its spiral arms, once vast beyond comprehension, start to take shape as a whole, a rotating disk of light floating in darkness. And around it, more galaxies begin to appear. First, just a few, faint, distant, like soft smudges in the void. But as you continue pulling back, their number increases, each one containing billions or even trillions of stars, each one separated by distances even greater than those between stars. And now, the scale shifts again, because just as planets felt isolated and stars felt isolated, galaxies too are separated by immense voids, vast regions of space where there is almost nothing at all. And yet, even these galaxies are not completely random. They begin to form patterns, clusters of filaments, structures that stretch across unimaginable distances, like threads woven into a cosmic web. But before we go deeper into that structure, pause once more. Look back. Everything you have ever known, your planet, your star, your entire solar system, now sits inside a single galaxy, which itself is just one of many. And all of it is still only a small part of something far larger. So now the question changes again. Not how big is space, but something quieter, more profound. Where, exactly, do we fit inside all of this? We're about to take that final step outward. And this is where the true scale of the universe finally reveals itself. Now, let's take the final step of this part and allow your perspective to expand one more time beyond a single galaxy, beyond the familiar structure that once gave everything a sense of place. You are no longer inside the Milky Way. You are outside it, looking back. And from here, something astonishing becomes clear. The galaxy that once felt impossibly large now appears as a single, glowing structure, a soft spiral of light suspended in darkness. All those hundreds of billions of stars, all their planets, all their histories, compressed into one quiet, distant form. and surrounding it, there are others, not just a few, but many, some smaller, faint, and irregular, others larger, brighter, stretching out in elegant spirals or massive elliptical shapes. Each one, its own vast system of stars, its own collection of worlds, its own story unfolding across time. And between them, distance returns again, in a new form, because the space between galaxies is even more empty than the space between stars. Vast regions where light travels for millions of years without encountering anything at all. Not dust, not gas, not even the faint presence of nearby stars. Just silence. This is where the sixth realization settles in. Scale does not stop expanding. Every time you think you've reached the edge of something, it becomes part of something larger. Now gently pull back further. The Milky Way becomes smaller, joining other nearby galaxies, forming a loose group. A small collection of galaxies bound together by gravity, drifting slowly through space. This is not a dense cluster, not a crowded region, but a quiet gathering. A handful of galaxies connected loosely, moving together through the darkness. And even this group is not alone. As you continue to expand your view, more groups appear. Some larger, containing hundreds or even thousands of galaxies. These clusters begin to connect, forming long, delicate structures, like strands of light stretching across space. Filaments, enormous threads of galaxies, woven together across hundreds of millions of light years. And between these threads, voids, regions so vast, so empty, that entire galaxies are rare within them. Spaces so large that if you were inside one, you might look out and see almost nothing at all. No nearby galaxies, no bright structures, just distant points barely visible. And now, the universe begins to take on a shape, not random, not chaotic, but structured like a vast cosmic web. Matter gathers along these filaments, while emptiness expands in the voids between them. It is a pattern formed over billions of years, shaped by gravity, by the expansion of space, by the earliest fluctuations in the universe itself. And yet, even this structure is not the end, because now, something even more profound begins to emerge. The entire web, everything you see, all galaxies, all clusters, all filaments, exists within a boundary, not a physical wall, not something you can touch, but a limit to what can be observed. A horizon, the observable universe. This is the region of space from which light has had enough time to reach you since the beginning of everything. Not the entire universe, but the part you can see, the part that has revealed itself through time. And its size is almost impossible to truly feel. Light traveling at the fastest speed that exists has been moving for nearly 14 billion years since the beginning of the universe. And yet, because space itself has been expanding, the edge of what we can observe is now tens of billions of light years away, which means what you are seeing now is not the present. It is a layered history. The farther you look, the older the light becomes. Galaxies you see at great distances, appear as they were billions of years ago. Some from a time when the universe was young, when stars were just beginning to form, when structure itself was still emerging. You are not just looking across space. You are looking back through time. And at the very edge, there is something even more subtle. A faint glow, not from stars, not from galaxies, but from the universe itself, in its earliest visible state. A remnant of a time when everything was hot, dense, and filled with light that could not yet travel freely. That light still exists, surrounds everything, a quiet echo of the beginning. And beyond that, we do not know, not because nothing exists there, but because we cannot see it. Light from beyond that boundary has not had enough time to reach us, and perhaps never will. This is the final realization of this part. There are limits not just to distance, but to knowledge itself. A horizon beyond which observation ends. And within that horizon, everything you have experienced in this journey exists. Every star, every galaxy, every moment in time, contained within a vast, expanding bubble of visibility. Now pause here, at the edge of what can be known. Let the scale settle in slowly, because in the next part, we're going to explore what this truly means, not just for the universe, but for you inside it. And if you're still here, still drifting through this quiet vastness with me, gently let me know by commenting 1, so I know you made it this far. Now remain where you are, at the edge of everything you can observe, and gently let your awareness shift inward, not toward Earth, but toward the meaning of what you've just seen. Because something quiet, but profound has already happened. You've moved from a room to a planet, to a star system, to a galaxy, and finally to the edge of the observable universe. And yet, nothing ever truly felt crowded. At every level, the same pattern repeated. More space than substance. More silence than structure. And now, we begin to understand what that really means. Let's return just slightly, not all the way back, but to a place between stars. Not inside the solar system, not inside a galaxy's crowded core, but out here, in the quieter regions, where distances stretch wide and the darkness feels uninterrupted. Because this is where the universe reveals one of its most important truths. It is not full, it is sparse. Earlier, we saw that even planets are separated by enormous distances. Then we discovered that stars are even farther apart, isolated by years of light travel. But what we haven't fully explored yet is how this changes your understanding of connection itself. Imagine standing on a world orbiting another star, far from Earth, far from everything familiar. If you were to look up at the sky from there, you wouldn't see the constellations you recognize. Those patterns only exist from our perspective. From somewhere else, the stars rearrange, forming entirely different shapes, different alignments, different stories. The sky itself is relative. And this means something deeper. There is no universal view of the cosmos. Every point in space experiences its own version of reality. Now take this one step further. If you were on that distant world, and you look toward where Earth is, you wouldn't see it as it is now. You would see it as it was years ago, or decades ago, depending on the distance. Maybe you would see a younger version of our planet, before certain events happened, before certain people were even born. And at the same time, if someone on Earth looked toward you, they would see your world in its past. This is where the loneliness between stars becomes something more than distance. It becomes separation in time. Two civilizations could exist at the same moment, but never truly see each other in the present. Their awareness of one another would always be delayed, always slightly out of sync, always observing echoes rather than reality. And suddenly, the idea of connection across space begins to feel fragile. Because even if life exists elsewhere, even if intelligence emerges, the distances are so vast that communication becomes incredibly difficult. A message sent from one star system to another would take years, decades, or even centuries to arrive, and the reply would take just as long. Conversations would unfold across generations. Questions asked by one civilization might only be answered long after those who asked them are gone. This is the true weight of interstellar distance. It stretches not just space, but time and memory, and interaction itself. Now, let your awareness drift again, not toward a destination, but across multiple stars at once. Instead of focusing on one, imagine a region of space containing dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of stars, each separated by vast distances, yet all part of the same galaxy. This is where a new kind of structure appears. Not dense, not tightly connected, but loosely organized. Stars orbiting the center of the galaxy, each following its own path, each taking millions or even hundreds of millions of years to complete a single orbit. Time here moves differently, not faster, not slower, but on a scale so large that individual human lifetimes become almost invisible. A star could move slightly along its orbit, and entire civilizations could rise and fall on planets around it without ever noticing the change. And yet, this slow movement creates something stable. Galaxies persist for billions of years. Stars form, live, and die within them, but the structure remains, evolving gradually, almost imperceptibly. And within this structure, something else begins to emerge. Diversity. Not all stars are like the sun. Some are smaller, dimmer, burning slowly for trillions of years. Others are massive, bright, living fast and ending in powerful explosions that scatter elements across space. These differences matter because the type of star influences everything around it. The formation of planets, the potential for life, the stability of environments, all shaped by the nature of the star they orbit. And this leads to a quiet but important question. If stars are so different, and if there are so many of them, then how many worlds exist out there, orbiting these distant suns, hidden within the vastness we've been traveling through? We're going to explore that next, because the loneliness between stars might not mean emptiness. It might mean something else entirely, something waiting just beyond our current understanding. Now, let that question settle gently in your mind, not as something urgent, but as something quietly expanding. If there are so many stars, and if each one is separated by such immense distance, then what fills the spaces around them? Not physically, but meaningfully, because earlier, the emptiness between stars felt absolute. It felt like a kind of cosmic silence, where nothing happens, where nothing exists except distance itself. But now, we begin to see that this silence might not be empty at all. It might simply be quiet. Imagine again, drifting through interstellar space. But this time, instead of focusing on the distance, focus on the stars themselves. Each one you pass, each faint point of light, could have its own system, its own set of planets, orbiting quietly in the darkness. Worlds that you cannot see from here. Worlds that do not shine, that reflect only faint light from their stars, too dim, too distant, to be visible across these vast distances. And yet, they are there. Billions of them, possibly trillions. Planets formed from the same processes that created Earth, shaped by gravity, chemistry, and time. Some may be barren, silent, frozen, or scorched beyond recognition. But others might be different. This is where the loneliness begins to soften, just slightly, because the space between stars, though vast, does not necessarily mean the absence of worlds. It simply means those worlds are hidden. Now imagine approaching one of these distant stars. From far away, it looks just like any other point of light. But as you draw closer, the darkness around it begins to change. A faint glow, a subtle shift, as its light becomes stronger, more defined. And eventually you begin to see movement, not of the star itself, but of small objects orbiting it. Planets tracing slow paths through space, bound by gravity, repeating their journeys over years, decades, centuries. Each orbit, a rhythm. Each world, a possibility. And here, something interesting happens. Because despite the immense distance between stars, the processes that create planets are surprisingly common. Dust and gas collapse, disks form, material gathers, and worlds emerge. This has happened countless times across the galaxy, which means the conditions that created Earth are not unique. They are part of a pattern. Now pause on that thought, because it leads to something deeper. If planets are common, then environments are common. And if environments are common, then the potential for complexity, for chemistry, for life, begins to appear again and again. Not guaranteed, not everywhere, but not rare either. And yet, despite this possibility, we have not found clear evidence of other life. At least not yet. This is where the loneliness returns, but in a different form. Not as emptiness, but as uncertainty, because the universe may be full of worlds and still feel silent. Now imagine standing on one of those distant planets. The sky above you would look unfamiliar. The stars arranged in patterns that have no meaning to someone from Earth. Your sun would dominate the sky, just as ours does for us, but everything beyond it would feel distant, unreachable. And if you look toward our solar system, you wouldn't see Earth as it is now. You might see it as it was years ago or centuries ago, depending on how far away you are. Perhaps you would see a version of Earth before modern civilization, or even before humans existed at all. And at the same time, if we look toward you, we would see your past. This creates a strange kind of separation, not just distance, but delay. Even if two worlds exist at the same moment, they are never truly aware of each other in real time. They are always observing echoes, always slightly disconnected from the present. And this makes the universe feel quieter than it actually is, because communication, if it happens at all, unfolds slowly, stretched across years or longer. Now let your awareness expand again, beyond individual stars, beyond single systems, and return to the galaxy as a whole. Billions of stars, each one potentially surrounded by its own set of worlds, and yet all of them separated by vast distances, woven into a structure that is both connected and deeply isolated at the same time. This is the paradox of the cosmos. It is full and empty at once, rich with possibility, yet silent across unimaginable distances. And somewhere within that silence, we exist. On one small planet orbiting one ordinary star, in a quiet region of a vast galaxy. Not at the center, not in a special position, just here. And that raises a new kind of question, not about distance, but about perspective. If we are just one world among countless others, then what does it mean to be aware of this vastness? To understand it, even partially? To look out into the darkness and realize just how far it extends? We're going to explore that next, because the loneliness between stars is not just about space. It's about what it feels like to know you are inside it. Now, stay with that feeling for a moment. Not the scale itself, but the awareness of it. Because there's a quiet shift happening here, something deeper than distance, deeper than size, something that begins to change how existence feels from the inside. Up until now, we've been observing the universe as something external, something out there, a vast structure filled with stars, galaxies, and empty space between them. But now we turn that perspective around, because you are not outside the universe, looking in. You are inside it, looking outward, and that changes everything. Imagine once again, standing on a distant world orbiting a faraway star. The sky above you is filled with unfamiliar points of light, each one separated by years of travel, each one carrying information from the past. You already know now that every star you see is delayed. Every flicker of light is history, which means at any given moment, you are surrounded not by the present, but by layers of the past, arriving continuously from every direction. This transforms the night sky into something unexpected. Not just a view, but a memory field, a vast collection of moments, all reaching you at once, each one from a different time, a different place, a different stage in the life of the universe. Some of the light you see might have left its star just a few years ago. Other light may have been traveling for thousands or even millions of years before it reaches you. You are not seeing one moment. You are seeing many layered together. And this creates something quietly profound, because it means the present moment, as you experience it, is not universal. It is local. Your now exists only here at your position in your frame of reference. Somewhere else, even not that far away, now is slightly different, and across interstellar distances, that difference becomes impossible to ignore. Now imagine two observers, one standing on Earth, looking out toward a distant star, another standing on a planet orbiting that star, looking back toward Earth. Both are observing each other, but neither sees the other as they are. Each one sees a version delayed by time, shaped by distance, separated by the finite speed of light. This creates a kind of cosmic asymmetry, a separation that cannot be removed, no matter how advanced technology becomes, because it is built into the structure of reality itself. And this leads to a deeper realization. The universe is not synchronized. There is no single moment shared across all of space. There is only a continuous flow of information moving outward, carrying fragments of events, slowly revealing them across distance. Now let that idea expand further. Every star you see is sending out light in all directions, continuously. That light spreads outward, forming expanding spheres of information, growing larger with time. Our sun is doing the same. Right now, a sphere of light containing everything that has happened on Earth is expanding outward into space. Signals, radio waves, reflections of light, all moving away from us, carrying a faint imprint of our existence. But as that sphere grows, it becomes weaker, more diluted, harder to detect. Eventually, it fades into the background of the universe, indistinguishable from everything else. And this raises a quiet question. If other civilizations exist, their signals might be doing the same, expanding outward, fading, crossing the vast distances between stars, becoming harder and harder to detect as they spread, which means the universe might not be silent. It might simply be too vast for signals to remain strong across it. Now return again to the scale of the galaxy. Hundreds of billions of stars, each one potentially surrounded by its own expanding sphere of light, its own history, its own unfolding story. And yet, these spheres rarely intersect in meaningful ways. They pass through each other, diluted, weakened, stretched across space. This is another layer of the loneliness, not the absence of others, but the difficulty of reaching them. Now, slowly, let your awareness expand once more, not outward into distance, but inward into meaning, because something important is beginning to emerge. You are part of this system. You are inside this expanding web of light and time. Every moment you experience, every thought, every action becomes part of a signal, part of a wave, moving outward into the universe. Your existence is not isolated. It is radiating quietly, continuously into the vastness you've been exploring. And yet, from your perspective, everything still feels centered here. This creates a strange duality. You are both incredibly small within an immense universe, and also part of the process that defines it. Now let that settle gently, because in the next segment, we're going to take this awareness even further, not just exploring distance, but exploring what it means that we are conscious of it at all, why the universe can be observed, and what that says about our place within it. Now, let's follow that idea just a little further, not outward into space, but deeper into awareness itself. Because something unusual has been quietly building in the background of this journey. You've seen the scale of planets, the distances between stars, the vast structure of galaxies, and the limits of the observable universe. But now, a different kind of question begins to emerge. Not about what is out there, but about why any of it can be experienced at all. Because here you are, a conscious observer, inside a universe so vast that even light struggles to cross it, and yet somehow you are able to imagine it, to understand it, to feel its scale. This is where the mystery becomes more subtle, because the universe is not just something that exists. It is something that can be known. Now imagine removing that awareness. The stars would still burn. Galaxies would still drift. Space would still expand. But none of it would be experienced. None of it would be seen or understood or felt. The entire cosmos would unfold in silence, without observation, without meaning attached to it. And yet, here you are, able to sit in a quiet room and mentally travel to the edge of the observable universe, able to hold both extremes at once, the smallness of your immediate surroundings and the vastness of everything beyond them. This creates a kind of contrast that is difficult to ignore, because on one hand, you are physically small, located on a tiny planet, orbiting an ordinary star, in a quiet region of a galaxy that is one among trillions. But on the other hand, your awareness is not confined in the same way. It can stretch, expand, move across scales that your body could never physically reach. And this leads to a quiet realization. The universe is vast, but your ability to comprehend it reaches across that vastness. Now, let that thought slow down, soften, because we're not saying that you are large or powerful or central to the universe, only that there is something unique about being able to observe it, because observation itself changes the way the universe is experienced. Think again about the night sky. Without awareness, it is just light traveling through space. With awareness, it becomes meaning, patterns, questions, curiosity. And this is where the loneliness between stars takes on a new dimension. It is not just physical separation. It is the possibility that awareness itself may be rare, that even in a universe filled with stars and planets and vast structures, moments of conscious observation might be scattered, isolated, just like the stars themselves. Now, imagine again those distant worlds we spoke about earlier. Planets orbiting other stars, hidden in the darkness, potentially filled with their own environments, their own histories. If life exists there, if awareness has emerged, then somewhere across these immense distances, there may be other observers, looking out into their own night sky, asking similar questions, feeling the same quiet sense of wonder or confusion or curiosity, but separated by such vast distances that their awareness never overlaps with yours. Their thoughts, their experiences, their understanding of the universe, unreachable, not because they do not exist, but because space is too large for those experiences to meet. This is where the loneliness becomes something almost philosophical. Not just distance between objects, but distance between perspectives, entire viewpoints, entire conscious experiences, existing in isolation, never intersecting, and yet all part of the same universe. Now slowly bring your awareness back again, not to Earth, but to your position within this structure. You are here, in one small region inside one galaxy, surrounded by distances so vast that they reshape how reality feels. And yet, you are aware of it. You can think about it. You can imagine crossing it, even if physically you never will. This creates a kind of quiet balance between limitation and understanding. Your body is bound to a single place, but your awareness is not. And perhaps that is the closest thing we have to connection across this vastness. Not physical travel, not communication across light years, but the shared ability to look outward and wonder. Now let that idea settle gently without needing to resolve it, because in the next segment, we're going to move one final step deeper, not into space, but into time itself, because the deeper you go into the universe, the more you begin to realize that distance was only part of the story. Now, let's follow that final thread gently into something even deeper, because until now, we've been treating distance as the main challenge. The vastness between stars, the silence between galaxies, the emptiness that stretches across unimaginable scales. But there is something else quietly woven into all of this. Time. Not just as a measurement, but as something inseparable from distance itself. Earlier, we touched on this idea that when you look into space, you are also looking into the past. But now we slow down and really feel what that means. Imagine once again, standing somewhere far from Earth, looking back toward it. The light reaching you left Earth years ago. What you see is not the present moment, but a version of Earth that no longer exists. Cities may have changed, people may have come and gone, events may have unfolded, but none of that has reached you yet. You are always observing a delay, Now expand that outward. Look at a star hundreds of light years away, and you are seeing it as it was centuries ago. Look at a galaxy millions of light years away, and you are seeing it before human civilization even began. And if you look far enough, you begin to see the universe itself as it was near its beginning. This is where time becomes layered across space. Every direction you look is a different moment, not a different place alone, but a different time. And all of these moments arrive together, merging into what you experience as now. This creates something quietly extraordinary, because your present moment is actually a collection of the past. Light from different distances, carrying information from different eras, all converging into a single experience. You are not seeing the universe as it is. You are seeing a mosaic of what it has been. Now let that idea settle, because it changes something fundamental. It means that the deeper you look into space, the further back in time you travel. Astronomy is not just observation. It is history. When we observe distant galaxies, we are not just studying their structure, we are witnessing their early stages. We see galaxies forming, stars igniting for the first time, structures evolving over billions of years. We are watching the universe grow, and not in simulation, but in reality, through light that has taken immense time to reach us. And this leads to a quiet realization. The universe is not static. It is unfolding continuously, and what we see is always behind that unfolding. Now imagine something even more subtle. There are regions of the universe so distant that the light from them will never reach us. Not because it hasn't had enough time, but because space itself is expanding too quickly. Those regions exist. Galaxies, stars, perhaps entire structures, unfolding beyond our observable horizon. But we will never see them. Not now, not ever. This is not a limitation of technology. It is a limitation of reality itself. There are parts of existence permanently beyond observation, and this introduces a new kind of boundary, not just of space, but of knowledge. Now return again to your position. You are inside a universe that is expanding, evolving, and partially hidden from itself. You can observe a vast region, but not all of it. You can understand patterns, but not the entirety. And yet, within this limitation, you are still able to piece together a story of origins, of structure, of expansion, of time itself flowing outward from a beginning we can only partially understand. And that story is built entirely from light, from signals traveling across distance, carrying fragments of information from the past. Now let your awareness soften again, because something important is becoming clear. The loneliness between stars is not just about distance. It is also about delay, about the fact that everything you observe is always slightly out of reach, always slightly behind, always separated from you by time. And yet, despite that separation, you can still understand it. You can still trace the patterns, reconstruct the history, and build a picture of the universe even if you can never experience it all directly. This creates a quiet kind of connection, not through proximity, but through understanding. Now, as we approach the final segment of this part, let one last question emerge. If the universe is so vast, so old, and so partially hidden, then what does it mean that you are here now, aware of it, able to think about it? We're about to explore that next. And this is where everything we've seen begins to come together. Now, let everything slow down just a little. You've traveled outward through distance, through silence, through time itself. And now we arrive at something quieter, something that doesn't expand outward anymore, but instead settles inward. Because all of this, everything you've seen, everything you've imagined, has been happening from a single point, your point. And that is where this final realization begins. Not with the size of the universe, but with your place inside it. Because after everything, after the vast emptiness between stars, after the delayed light, after the realization that entire regions of existence will forever remain unseen, you are still here, present, aware, experiencing this moment. And that might seem simple, almost too obvious to notice, but in the context of everything we've explored, it becomes something quietly extraordinary. Because the universe, for all its scale, does not feel itself. It does not observe its own vastness. It does not recognize the distances between its stars or the silence between its galaxies. But you do. From a small planet orbiting an ordinary star in a quiet region of a single galaxy, you are able to hold the idea of the entire observable universe in your mind. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to feel its scale, enough to sense its depth. And that creates a kind of contrast that is difficult to ignore, because physically, you are incredibly small. But in terms of awareness, you are connected to something far larger. Now, this doesn't mean you are central to the universe. It doesn't mean everything revolves around you, or that you are somehow more important than the cosmos itself. It simply means that within this vast system, there are points where the universe becomes aware of itself. Moments where matter organizes in such a way that it can reflect, observe, and wonder. And you are one of those moments. Now let that idea settle gently, because it changes the feeling of loneliness. Earlier, the space between stars felt empty, silent, disconnected. But now, it begins to feel different, because even though those distances remain, even though the silence is still there are places scattered across the universe where awareness exists, where questions are asked, where the cosmos is not just existing, but being experienced. And those places, though separated by vast distances, are part of the same unfolding story. Now imagine this, somewhere far beyond what you will ever see, another observer might exist, looking out into their own night sky, feeling the same sense of scale, the same quiet curiosity, the same questions. They may never know you exist, You may never know they exist, and yet, both of you are part of the same universe, observing it from different points at different times. This is a different kind of connection, not through communication, not through proximity, but through shared awareness. Now, let's return one final time, not outward, but inward, back to where you began, the room you're in, the space that once felt complete, contained, understandable. After everything you've just experienced, it feels different now, not because it has changed, but because your perspective has. The walls are still the same distance away. The objects around you are still familiar. But now, you know that this small space exists within something unimaginably vast. That beyond these walls is a planet. Beyond that, a star. Beyond that, a galaxy. And beyond that, a universe that stretches to a horizon you will never reach. And yet, here you are, inside it, aware of it, able to feel both the smallness of your immediate surroundings and the vastness beyond them at the same time. This is where everything comes together, not in a dramatic conclusion, but in a quiet understanding that the universe is not just something you exist inside of. It is something you are connected to through awareness, through observation, through the simple act of wondering. Now, let that awareness soften. There's nothing you need to solve, nothing you need to figure out, just the quiet realization that you are here, in this moment, at one point in a vast, expanding universe, and somehow that is enough. And if you're still here with me, still drifting through these thoughts, gently let me know by commenting too, so I know you made it this far. Now we begin the final descent, not outward anymore, but across the largest structure you can meaningfully imagine, and then gently beyond it. Because everything you've experienced so far, every layer of scale, every realization about distance, time, and awareness has all existed within one boundary, the observable universe. And now, we're going to explore what that boundary really means. Not as a number, not as a measurement, but as a limit to reality as you can experience it. Imagine once again that you are drifting outward, passing beyond galaxies, beyond clusters, beyond the vast filaments that form the cosmic web. The structures become thinner, more sparse, until eventually, there is nothing left to pass. No more galaxies ahead. No more light sources growing brighter. Only a faint, uniform glow coming from every direction. This is not light from stars, not from galaxies, but from something far older, a quiet remnant from the earliest moment the universe became visible, a time when everything was so hot, so dense, that light could not travel freely. And then, as the universe expanded and cooled, light was finally able to move, spreading outward, filling space. That light is still here, surrounds everything. And what you are seeing now is the farthest point from which any information has ever reached you. This is the edge, not a wall, not a barrier you could touch, but a horizon of knowledge. Beyond this point, light has not had enough time to arrive, and perhaps never will. Now let that settle, because this changes something fundamental. It means that the universe you experience is not the entire universe. It is only the part that has had time to reveal itself to you. There may be more, far more, extending beyond this horizon, but it is forever hidden, separated not by distance alone, but by the expansion of space itself. Now imagine this in a quieter way. You are inside a vast sphere of visibility. Everything you can ever see, every galaxy, every star, every structure, exists within this sphere. And as time moves forward, this sphere slowly expands, revealing more, but also carrying distant regions further away, sometimes faster than light can catch up, which means there are places that are becoming permanently unreachable. Even for light, even for information, this introduces a new kind of isolation, not just between stars, not just between galaxies, but between entire regions of the universe. Now, gently shift your perspective. Instead of standing at the center, imagine that every point in space has its own observable universe. Every location, its own sphere of visibility, its own horizon, its own limits. There is no single center, no special position. Every observer, anywhere in the universe, experiences this same structure, a vast surrounding of visible reality, and beyond it, an unknown. Now, let your awareness soften into this idea, because something important is happening here. The universe is not just vast, it is partially unknowable, not because we lack intelligence, not because we lack technology, but because of the way reality itself is structured. There are limits built into observation, boundaries that cannot be crossed, even in principle. And yet, within those limits, we have discovered so much. We have traced the expansion of space, measured the age of the universe, mapped the distribution of galaxies, and understood that everything we see began from a single, hot, dense state. The beginning, the moment when space, time, and energy all emerged together. And even that is something we can only partially understand, because as we approach that beginning, our models begin to break down, our understanding becomes uncertain, and beyond that point, there may be deeper layers of reality, entirely beyond our current comprehension. Now, let that uncertainty feel calm, not unsettling, because it is part of the structure of the universe. Not everything is meant to be known. Not everything can be observed. And that is what gives the cosmos its depth, its mystery, its quiet sense of endlessness. Now, as we continue this final part, we're going to move into something even more subtle, not just the edge of space, but the future of it, because the universe is not static. It is still changing, still expanding, still evolving in ways that will reshape everything you've just experienced. And that is where our journey will begin to slow into something quieter, more reflective, as we approach the true edge of everything. Now, let's continue, but more slowly than before. Because we're no longer exploring distance, we're exploring what happens over time to everything we've just seen. The universe is not standing still. Even now, as you sit quietly, as you listen, as you imagine this vastness, space itself is expanding, not like an explosion moving outward into emptiness, but something more subtle. The space between galaxies is stretching, quietly, constantly, and because of that, everything is slowly drifting apart. Now imagine this expansion, not over seconds or years, but over billions of years. The galaxies you saw earlier, those distant spirals and clusters, begin to move farther away from each other. At first, the change is imperceptible. Nothing seems different, but over immense stretches of time, the separation grows. Galaxies that were once visible begin to fade, not because they disappear, but because the space between you and them stretches so much that their light becomes weaker, redder, more difficult to detect. Eventually, they slip beyond the observable horizon. Gone. Not in reality, but gone from view. This is the future of the universe. A slow, quiet isolation. Now let that unfold gently. Imagine a time billions of years from now. The night sky, once filled with distant galaxies, begins to empty. Not suddenly, but gradually, one by one. Those faint points of light disappear beyond the horizon, carried away by expansion faster than their light can reach you. And what remains is only your local region, your galaxy, and perhaps a few nearby ones, still gravitationally bound together. Everything else gone from view. This is where the scale changes again. But this time, not through distance, through loss, because the universe, which once appeared full, rich, filled with countless galaxies, will become darker, quieter, more empty from any single point of observation. Now imagine observing the universe from that far future. You would not see the cosmic web. You would not see distant clusters. You would not even know they ever existed. All evidence of the larger universe would have slipped beyond reach. And from that perspective, the universe would appear much smaller, much simpler. This is one of the quiet paradoxes of cosmology. The universe is expanding, revealing more over time, and yet also hiding itself. Because while nearby regions become clearer, distant regions are being carried away beyond observation. Now let that idea settle, because it changes something about how we understand knowledge itself. What we can observe is not constant. It evolves. There are things we can see now that will not be visible in the future. And there are things that existed in the past that we can no longer observe today. The universe is not just vast. It is selective in what it reveals and when. Now, let's take this one step further. If expansion continues, and everything continues to move apart, then over unimaginable time, even stars themselves will change. Stars burn through their fuel, slowly, steadily, over millions, billions, even trillions of years. Some fade quietly, becoming dim remnants. Others end in violent explosions, scattering their material into space. But eventually, star formation itself will slow and then stop, because the gas needed to form new stars will become depleted, spread too thin across expanding space. And the universe will grow darker, not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually, a slow fading of light. Now imagine that distant future. Galaxies still exist, but fewer stars shine within them. Old stars burn dimly. New stars are rare. The sky becomes quieter, less dynamic, more still. And eventually, after unimaginable time, only the faintest remnants remain. This is sometimes called the dark era of the universe, a time when most stars have burned out, when light itself becomes rare, when the cosmos settles into a long, a quiet state. Now, let that image soften, because this is not something to fear. It is simply the natural continuation of the processes we've been observing. The same expansion, the same physics, unfolding over longer timescales. And even in that distant future, the universe still exists, still vast, still structured in its own quiet way. Now, bring your awareness gently back to the present, because everything you've imagined, that distant fading, that slow expansion, has not happened yet. Right now, the universe is still full of light. Galaxies are still visible. Stars are still forming. You are living in a time when the universe is still revealing itself. And that is something quietly rare. Now, as we move toward the final segments, we're going to let everything slow even further, not expanding outward anymore, not projecting into the distant future, but settling into something calmer, a reflection, because after everything we've seen, there is only one place left to return to, here, and that is where this journey will gently come to rest. Now, let everything begin to slow. No more rushing outward. No more expanding into larger and larger scales. Just a gentle return through everything you've experienced, allowing it to settle into something quieter, something easier to hold. Because after everything we've seen, the edge of the universe is no longer just a distant boundary. Something that changes how you feel. Right here, think back to where this began. A simple room, a space that felt complete, understandable, contained. And now, that same room exists inside a chain of scale so vast that it stretches beyond imagination. From walls to city to planet to star to galaxy to the observable universe, and finally to a horizon beyond which nothing can be seen. And yet, nothing about your immediate surroundings has changed. The distance to the walls is the same. The air around you is still calm. The sounds, if there are any, remain soft and close. What has changed is your awareness. Now, let that awareness soften, not as something overwhelming, but as something gentle, something that can rest quietly in the background. Because the purpose of this journey was never to make the universe feel intimidating. It was to let you feel its scale, slowly, in a way that doesn't rush, doesn't overwhelm, but unfolds naturally. Now imagine holding both perspectives at once. The smallness of your immediate space and the vastness beyond it, not as opposites, but as layers. Your room is not separate from the universe. It is part of it. Just as your planet is part of your star system part of your galaxy part of the observable universe. Everything connects, and not through closeness, but through structure. Now let's take one final gentle step. Not outward, but inward. Notice your breathing. Slow, steady, unaware of galaxies, unaware of expansion. Simply happening. Your body grounded in this moment, not stretched across light years, not affected by cosmic distances, just here. And yet, the atoms that make up your body were once part of stars, forged in environments far more extreme than anything on Earth, scattered across space, and eventually gathered into the form you exist in now. So even here, in this quiet room, you are connected to the universe in a very real way, not metaphorically, physically. Now let that thought settle gently, because it removes the distance in a different way. You are not just observing the universe from the outside. You are made from it, and that means the vastness you've been imagining is not separate from you. It is part of the same process that led to this moment. Now, allow everything to slow even further. There is no need to think about distances anymore. No need to imagine traveling across space. No need to reach the edge, because the edge is not a place you go. It is simply the limit of what can be known. And beyond that, there is no pressure to understand, just space. Now imagine the universe, not as something expanding endlessly, but as something gently unfolding, like a story still being written. You are somewhere within that story, not at the beginning, not at the end, just here, in one moment among countless others. And that is enough. Now let your thoughts drift slowly, without direction. There is nothing left to explore, nothing left to reach, just the quiet awareness of being inside something vast, calm, and continuous. And as everything settles, you may begin to notice that the vastness no longer feels overwhelming, feels peaceful, because nothing is rushing, nothing is demanding your attention. The universe continues, whether you think about it or not. Stars burn, galaxies drift, space expands, and here, in this moment, you simply exist within it. Now, as we move into the final part, there is only one thing left to do, to let everything fade gently into stillness, where the scale of the universe becomes something you don't need to hold anymore, only something you've quietly experienced. And that is where we'll go next. Now, let everything soften even more. No more expansion, no more reaching outward, no more trying to understand or measure anything. Just a gentle settling, because after everything we've explored, the vastness of the universe doesn't need to stay sharp in your mind anymore. It can begin to blur, like distant stars fading into the night sky, still there, but no longer demanding your attention. Imagine once again that quiet darkness of space, not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels calm, a darkness filled with distance, but also with stillness. And within that stillness, everything continues without urgency. Galaxies drift slowly over billions of years. Stars burn quietly, turning hydrogen into light, one moment at a time. Planets orbit, repeating their paths again and again, without ever needing to arrive anywhere new. There is no rush, no destination, only motion unfolding gently across time. Now, bring that feeling closer, from galaxies to stars to planets, and finally back to Earth. The same quiet motion exists here too. The planet beneath you is spinning, slowly, steadily, carrying you through space without you ever needing to notice. It orbits the sun, just like it always has, just like it will for billions of years more. And the sun itself is moving through the galaxy, part of a much larger journey, one that takes hundreds of millions of years to complete. And yet, you don't feel any of it, because from where you are, everything feels still. This is the quiet contrast at the heart of the universe. Constant motion, experienced as calm stillness. Now, let your awareness rest inside that. You don't need to follow the motion. You don't need to track the scale. You can simply exist in the stillness while everything else continues on its own. Now imagine that all the distances you explored, all the vast scales, begin to gently fade, like a dream that becomes softer as you wake or drift into sleep. The edge of the observable universe fades into the background. The galaxies become faint. The stars soften into points of light. And eventually, all that remains is this moment, here, now. You're breathing slow and steady, your body at rest, your awareness no longer stretched across billions of light years, but gently returning to something simple, something quiet, because even though the universe is vast, your experience of it happens only here, in this moment, and that is enough. Now, notice how the feeling of scale has changed. It no longer feels overwhelming. It no longer feels like something you need to grasp or hold. It has become something softer, something you can let go of without losing it, because once you've felt it, even briefly, stays with you quietly in the background, not as a number, not as a measurement, but as a sense, a quiet understanding that there is more, far more beyond what you can see, and that you are part of it. Now, let your thoughts drift. There is no need to follow them, no need to finish anything. The journey outward has ended, and what remains is simply the calm after it, a stillness that doesn't need explanation, a space that doesn't need to be filled, just quiet, continuous presence. Now imagine the universe continuing without you needing to observe it. Stars forming, galaxies drifting, space expanding, all happening gently without interruption. And at the same time, you remain here, at rest, unmoving, aware, but not searching. This is where the journey settles, not at the edge of space, but at the edge of thought, where everything becomes simple again. Now, as we move into the final segment, there is nothing new to discover, only something to feel, a quiet closing, where the vastness of the universe becomes something distant again, and all that remains is calm and rest and stillness. Now, there is nothing left to reach, no further distance to imagine, no deeper layer to unfold, no larger structure waiting beyond this one. Only a gentle return into stillness. Because after everything you've experienced, the journey was never really about arriving somewhere. It was about expanding, and then slowly letting that expansion dissolve. Now imagine the universe again, but this time, not as something vast and overwhelming, not as something filled with unimaginable distances, but as something quiet, something patient, something that does not need to be understood all at once. Galaxies continue their motion, but so slowly that it feels like stillness. Stars continue to burn, but so steadily that it feels like calm. Space continues to expand, but so gently that it feels almost unnoticed. And within all of that, you are here, not traveling, not moving across light years, just present. Now let your attention rest on that, because this moment is the only place where the entire universe becomes meaningful to you. Not the past, not the distant future, not the unreachable edges beyond the observable horizon. Only this, here, now. And in this moment, everything you explored still exists, but it no longer needs to be held actively in your mind. It can remain in the background, like a quiet understanding, something you've touched and can now release. Now imagine that the universe is not something separate from you, not something out there, but something you are gently embedded within. Every atom in your body, formed in ancient stars, every breath part of a system that connects you to your planet, your atmosphere, your environment. You are not outside the universe looking in. You are inside it as part of its ongoing process. And that process does not rush. It unfolds. Now let your thoughts slow even more. There is no need to follow them. No need to complete any idea. If a thought appears, let it pass, like a distant star drifting across the edge of awareness. Nothing needs to stay. Nothing needs to be held. Now imagine the night sky again, but this time, not as something to analyze, not as something to measure, just as something to rest within. Points of light scattered across darkness, each one distant, each one quiet, and between them, space, not empty in a harsh way, but open, soft, endless. Now imagine that openness gently expanding around you, not physically, but in feeling, a sense of space, of calm, of nothing pressing in, just room to exist. Now, bring your awareness back to your breathing again, slow effortless. It happens on its own, just like everything else in the universe. You don't need to control it. You don't need to guide it. It simply continues, just like the motion of planets, just like the burning of stars, just like the expansion of space. Now let that connection settle, because it removes the separation. The same quiet processes that shape the cosmos are present here, in this moment, in a much softer form. Now, there is nothing left to understand, nothing left to figure out, only something to experience, a quiet awareness that you are part of something vast. And yet, you do not need to carry its weight. The universe does not ask anything from you. It does not require you to comprehend it fully. It simply exists and allows you to exist within it. And that is enough. Now, let everything become even softer. The idea of galaxies fades. The idea of distance fades. Even the idea of the universe itself begins to dissolve into something simpler. Just presence, just calm, just this moment continuing quietly without effort. Now, if your mind drifts, let it drift. If your thoughts slow, let them slow. If everything becomes a little quieter, a little softer, that's exactly where this journey was meant to lead. Because in the end, the true scale of the universe is not something you hold in your mind. It's something you gently let go of while remaining aware that it's always there. Now, as we move into the final segment, there is only one thing left to do. To let everything settle completely into rest.